Hello, my name is Larry Bodine, and I want to welcome everybody to this week's meeting of Democrats of Greater Tucson. We have a fabulous speaker, and that's Steve Farley. Steve, wave hello to all of us. Before I get into the introduction, Lucy Messing had a quick announcement. Tell us what's going on.
Thank you, Larry. I just want to announce to folks who are interested in attending a couple of Zoom meetings that I've scheduled to talk about my run for chair of Pima County. One will be held on Saturday. That's 11/21 at 1 o'clock. And one will be held on Monday. That's 11/23 at 6:30. The website that will have the information is going up on Wednesday, but you may email me directly and I will send you the link. And I'll put my email in the chat. Thank you, Larry.
I want to let all members, paid members of Democrats of Greater Tucson know that we're having an election on December 7th. And this election will be for all of the officers. Mark down December 7th as the day when we elect new board members. You will get information closer to that date via email. And we're also working on the idea of sending a postcard. We encourage every good member, if they're interested in running, this is the opportunity. Also, on a different topic, I wanted to share my screen to show you Area Labor Federation is holding a couple of what they call standouts regarding Postal Service. There will be a standout tomorrow and then another one on the 22nd. I'll put the link into the chat box so you can see how to participate. All right, let me introduce our speaker today, someone we all know and esteem, and that would be Steve Farley. He's been the Chief Executive Officer of the Humane Society of Southern Arizona since March 2020. And he was named CEO because of his experience and service record, such as winning the Humane Society's Humane Legislator of the Year multiple times, in particular for his efforts to ban greyhound racing in Arizona and to ban puppy mills. And Steve brings a professional lifetime of vision, leadership, and public service to his current positions. Most people know him for the murals, the tile murals on Broadway downtown, or as a longtime Arizona legislator who was elected 6 times to office and was known for his dedication to supporting healthcare and education. So Steve's animal story goes back years to the 1980s when he was a volunteer at the San Francisco SPCA. And his work, he spent 3 years as an animal behaviorist for the Society to Prevent Cruelty to Animals. And in that role, he worked to socialize and train hard case shelter dogs to make them more adoptable. And he worked for the SPCA's National Behavior Hotline to help foster parents solve animals' behavior problems. Steve, it's just a delight to have you on the program. And a little bird told me that you might even talk about politics a little bit.
What time talking about politics in front of this group. So certainly I can still get a little bit of that going. I don't know if any of you noticed, every 2 years since 2012, I did that balance of power graphic that I put on Facebook and Twitter. And I did that again this year. And people all over the country were actually, and all over the world were tuning into it because they wanted to find out about Arizona and what was happening in the count. So that was kind of fun to be back on it. But I'll tell you, I really, really enjoy not being in politics right now at this moment. Even though I would love to be able to be serving, and I certainly could do things a little bit better than the current governor, I would believe. And not having to spend all that much time on I-10 is a big benefit. Also a benefit not have to be taking all those slings and arrows like I got used to for a while there. And I just got to do a shout out to Lucy Messing, who's on the call. I'm really happy that she's stepping up and wanting to be the chair of our county party, because I couldn't think of anybody better to be able to lead our county party. I think she'll be amazing. So I've endorsed her, and just want to let you know that too. That's pretty exciting. It's good to see you, Larry, in the center square in the Paul Lynn position on the Hollywood Squares. I appreciate the work you're doing to keep DGT going through difficult times. It's been challenging, I think, for everybody. This is the time where we really need to sort of think about how we can reinvent what we do and make things safe for the people we encounter every day and for ourselves. I think you guys have done a great job doing this, and this is pretty cool, actually seeing everybody's face close up during the talk. And that's exactly what I was like thrown into as I took over the reins of the Humane Society this year. I couldn't be happier to be there. And even in these tough times, I'm so overjoyed to be able to save lives every day when I go into work. But I probably could have chosen the timing a little bit better. It was February 19th was my first day. And you remember February and March 7th was the first COVID case in Pima County. So that just sort of boom. I mean, first I met with everybody we could. There's about 100 employees at the Humane Society. I wanted to meet with them all one by one and hear what their take was on the organization, what they like about it, what they thought could be done better. And then all of a sudden we went full COVID. So I'm grateful to have been there in a position leading an organization through a difficult time. We immediately, like all nonprofits in the area, we could no longer have our annual fundraiser as an event. That's a challenging thing. I know you guys have had to go through that too. So we adapted. We figured out how we could do things safely. We found we did a thing called March Muttness that was a little thing to sort of substitute for March Madness, where we actually got shelters from all over the country to agree to compete in how much money they could raise in a tournament style bracket where they're competing against other shelters. And we only got 8 for the first time because we only had a week to put this together before March. We ended up having 8 people. We made $50,000 for all those shelters just in the course of that little tournament. And next year, watch for it, because we're going to end up having a 128 shelter bracket of people from all over the country. We'll have the classic rivalries in cities from the NCAA tournament, but we'll be doing it in how much money we can raise for each other. And I think that'll be a phenomenal thing to help everybody all over the country. Within the shelter itself, we had to move our regular adoption process to appointments only. And that we had to figure out how that would work. So we had people call up and they could see online what dogs and cats they'd like to adopt, and they came in. While that does shrink our throughput in terms of how many people we can seeing our pets on a regular basis, people were so excited about having a best friend to hunker down with during the lockdown in the spring that we actually saw adoptions go up. And in June, we adopted out more dogs and cats than in any month in the previous 5 years. So people have been stepping up. Our donors have been stepping up. The adopters have been stepping up. And we've just continued to go like do everything we can to be able to meet the needs of the dogs and cats as they come to us. And I'll tell you, if I really would love to see a reality show based on our admissions department. Because when you see the pets in need that come to our doors every day and what they're having to go through, let me tell you a story about just a couple of them. There's a couple of dogs that are some of my favorites right now, and I visit them every day. That's really how I get charged up every day. I go into work and I'll see what's happened with these animals. There was a dog named Milo who was brought in by a Good Samaritan, and he was found. He's like a little a long-haired Chihuahua kind of looking dog, and these are all good old mutts. And Milo was found lying down on his side, unable to move under a tree. A Good Samaritan brought him in, and it turned out he had untreated valley fever for untold amount of time. If you touch him, he just yelped in pain. He couldn't move his limbs at all. It had gotten into his joints. Our doc said, we can do what we can. Dr. Overton, who is amazing, she is incredible that how she will just jump right into it. When a dog like this comes in, it's like she has a MASH unit there. She's got her crew, and they read each other's minds, and they know exactly what to do. They started to work on this dog. This was about 5 weeks ago. And they started to get the antifungal medication and all the things you do for valley fever. At first, when I met Milo, Milo was in the kennel and was just lying on the bed and couldn't move at all. And they put the food and water next to him. So he just went over like this and lapped it up on the side. Just couldn't move. You touched him. He was in pain. Now I go in to see Milo. He's in a little X-pen, they call it, the little shelter that they can walk around in a little bit. And he is not only getting up on his feet whenever he sees me and getting so excited and yelping for joy. And he actually, I went in a few days ago, he got up on his feet and walked a little bit towards me before he collapsed. So he's learning how to walk again. We actually have an underwater treadmill where they can do physical therapy when there are dogs in this sort of situation. And he's doing amazing. There was another dog named Lily who came in. And Lily was brought into our vaccination clinic by an owner who really didn't know what was going on or didn't seem to understand there was something going on. But Lily came in, and when you see Lily, it's almost like you had a balloon stretched across a dog skeleton. Absolutely skin and bones. You could see the vertebrae come through. It was a horrible condition. Turned out Lily had untreated diabetes for years. Actually, she was only 3 years old, but she looks like she's about 15 or 16 or even older. So the owner, when we told her about this, said, I can't afford that. Just put her down. And we said, no, we'd like to see if we can get her back to health. So she signed her over to us, and Lily is now as bright as anything. She's got her blood sugar stabilized. She's going back into she's totally stable at this point. She wears a little hoodie all the time over because she has no fur, but she's doing so well. And this is just a couple of different stories of the sorts of things we encounter. A couple of months ago, we were asked by the Casa Grande Humane Society to help because they discovered a hoarding case in Casa Grande where there were 90 dogs living and 6 dogs dead in a 700 square foot house. Absolutely shocking conditions. So we went up on the road immediately, and we took a bunch of those dogs out of there and brought them to our shelter. They were very afraid of people. They were actually obviously good with other dogs. So that was a good thing. And they ended up really coming back to life very well. We nursed them back to health. We got them a little more socialized. And as soon as they were adopted, they've all been adopted out so far, and they got adopted all out within a week because people were so excited about their story, and they were really actually wonderful dogs to adopt. So whatever we encounter, we're there. That's the key thing. Our dogs and cats really don't know what's going on in the world. They don't know there's an election. They don't know there's a pandemic. They come to our door. They need help. We give them their help. And the only way we can give them their help is because the people who support us are so generous with their resources, and it's thrilling. So now, I've actually positioned us. One of the things that I wanted to do out of the pandemic is not just put things on hold and hunker down and see what we can do. I wanted to start planning for the future and what we can do in the future to be able to help pets and help our community even better. We started up a food distribution for pet food for people who couldn't afford to buy pet food for their pets. Every Sunday, starting at 8 o'clock, people line up, and we give out the dog food and cat food to anybody who's coming in. We have people who get rides. People who don't have cars get rides from others. We load up all the food they need for that month, and they go out. And the gratitude we get from people is amazing. We're now working with a food bank to try to give out human food as well as the pet food. And we've collaborated with Pima Council on Aging to be able to get pet food to them, because in many cases there are a lot of seniors home alone, isolated with their pets, who are going to give their pet their own food before they give them give that food to themselves. So we want them not to have to make that choice, and we're working with PCOA to make that happen as well. We're also looking at what can happen in a life past pet homelessness, because we think we can get there. Regarding cats, I started up a thing called the Community Cat Coalition. There's a lot of organizations that are cat rescues, cat shelters, individual cat trappers for something called Trap, Neuter, Release, TNR, which is when you have feral cats out there in colonies. Instead of eradicating them the way that some like pest control services will want to do, we will take the cats, trap them, bring them in, spay and neuter them, and then return them to where they're at and make sure that there's someone there taking care of that colony. Eventually, they will not reproduce, and you will eliminate any unwanted kittens in the entire region. So the idea of the Community Cat Coalition is to get people who previously were not working together to all come together to talk regularly, meet regularly, share resources, and have one big goal, which is to eliminate unwanted kittens in Pima County and all of southern Arizona by 2025, which is a huge issue because our kittens are often born during cat season, and that means in May, June, July. And when you're a brand new kitten in Tucson in June, it is a deadly place to be from a lot of different perspectives. So this really ends cruelty and saves lives if we're able to do it. So these organizations are working together, and now for the first time, a generous donor who wanted to remain anonymous gave enough money for us to be able to hire a community cat coordinator and a community cat professional to assist that coordinator. And we now have those two people working full time on this effort, organizing, and we're going to create a new app and website where people who are trapping can find out where there would be a clinic available to do spay and neuter, and how they can get transport and any other assistance, and where they can get traps to be able to help with this effort. So that's a huge thing to be able to end pet homelessness and end the suffering of kittens in summer in Tucson. We're also aiming towards we're actually starting a campaign to build a new building on our site just immediately to the west in the Flowing Wells neighborhood where we're at, which will be like a huge new community jewel. It's an education behavioral center where we're going to be collaborating with the University of Arizona, who just opened a new College of Veterinary Medicine this semester. I'm thrilled about that because when I was in the legislature, I worked really hard to get that up and running, and we finally were successful at getting the funding they needed to get it going. They are really focusing, the way that they're differentiating themselves from other vet schools is they are focusing on community service and community collaborations, and also research into animal behavior and how animals think, and the animal-human bond and canine cognition. So in that building, they're going to be collaborating with us. There will be a few rooms in it. There's a room that'll be just like a house, and then a room on the other side, which is more like a sort of a clinical setting, and then a room in the middle that has one-way windows and recording devices and computers so they can do experiments and trying different behavioral things on dogs and cats in those rooms, and then see if they can discover what's going on. You may have heard there were some good articles in the New York Times a couple of days ago talking about how internationally there's a lot of advances being made in canine cognition and how humans age. There's a bunch of academics worldwide that are doing a competition for genius dogs where they've actually been teaching language to dogs, and then they have these little buttons that they push on them. They say a word so they can communicate, and then they can tell the dog to go get a certain toy amongst 100, and they go choose the exact toy they asked for. That's the sort of work that it'll be doing, and I think there'll be a lot of breakthroughs in how we and our pets, how we work together, how we communicate, and what our lives are like. Also in that building, we're going to be able to offer training to the public like we've never offered before. We want to be the organization that doesn't just adopt you, your best friend, and then go away, but we're going to be the organization that is supporting you with the tools you need for the rest of your life. So when all these people who adopted animals during lockdown go back to work, a lot of those dogs and cats will have anxiety symptoms from separation anxiety. We're going to offer the tools and the training that people need to be able to get over that so that they can keep those dogs and cats instead of returning them to us when they become too much trouble. We're also really big on humane education. We in normal times, we go to 500 classrooms a year teaching kids how to be kind to pets and how to raise pets. And in large part, we're doing that because studies have been very, very clear that animal abuse leads to domestic violence. If we can teach kids early how to be kind to animals, there will be much less of a cases of domestic violence down the line from those kids who've undergone these programs. So we have summer camps, we have after-school programs, we have those types of things to help in that effort as well. During COVID and social distancing requirements, it's made it harder for us to reach as many kids. We're still doing that virtually into the classrooms this year. And our camps, we still offered camps, but we had fewer kids in it. With the larger space we're building next door, that's air conditioned indoor space, we'll be able to have more kids we serve in that area as well. And that's also where we're putting our Community Cat Coalition headquarters in that area. We'll have an area called a kitten kindergarten, where if we trap kittens who are young enough to socialize, we can socialize them there and then adopt them out. Or if we trap other cats that are feral, but they may have issues where we can't bring them out into the wild, we'll train them how to become working cats and like barn cats, and be able to help out people who need mice caught, and then we'll be able to return them out there that way. So this whole facility will also have a huge amphitheater. We'll be able to do outdoor lectures, demonstrations, trainings, and all these facilities will be open to the public, so we can have meetings there as well for the public. So we really want to be an assistant to the Flowing Wells neighborhood. So the neighborhood will have this as something that they can use as a resource as well. We're looking at expanding to the east side, so we can expand our services to people who don't want to come all the way over to Roger Road and Oracle when they want to have animal services of some sort. So we'll be expanding to the whole area. I actually am talking with some officials from Cochise County to see if we can help manage some of the shelters down there, so we can truly be a Humane Society of Southern Arizona and not just of Tucson. So we're looking at all sorts of exciting things that we can do in the future. I'm thrilled about the opportunity to be able to do this. And while I would have liked to have been able to organize and help manage the state this way, at least I have a pretty good organization that does some pretty good stuff right now that I can work for. And I'm really excited to be here.
What I wanted to say is there's a question that everybody in the group has for you. And what is the name of that fuzzy creature on the chair behind you?
I'll wake her up a little bit. This is Ziggy. And if you look closely, you'll notice Ziggy has one blue eye and one brown eye. So she's named after Ziggy Stardust. Ziggy was my, everyone laughed at me because I think they were betting over and under on how long it would take for me to adopt my first pet after being there. I have 2 already, but this is my 3rd, and it took 3 weeks. So I think those people who bet the under won. But Ziggy was 3 months old when I got her, so she's about to turn 1 in December. But she was from the Wilcox shelter. We take a lot of intake from all over Southern Arizona, and she and her sister are in the Wilcox shelter, and she just caught my eye while I was walking the kennels one day, and I couldn't resist her. She's amazing. She actually just got her bath last night, so she's looking pretty good right now. But I got her DNA tested because I couldn't figure out what kind she was. She looked like a West Highland Terrier when she was 3 months old. Now she's kind of got that sheepdog kind of look. She actually is half husky, and the other half is boxer, Australian cattle dog, and miniature poodle. So she's all over the map, but that's the great thing. You get one-of-a-kind dogs and cats at the Humane Society.
Yeah. Well, she's a real melting pot.
Absolutely, just like America.
That's right. Got a question from Marion Pickens, who asks, why do people keep too many animals, and what can be done to prevent that? And I draw on my own experience. I was on the Humane Society board in Illinois, in Naperville. Pet hoarding was a real problem. What can you do about that?
It's a real issue, and it's a real mental health issue. I think that's like hoarding in general, but to hoard living things is just a real, much worse problem than that. When you go into these situations and you see the thing that's interesting, and in this case in Casa Grande, it's usually the case, the people who are hoarding these animals believe that they are doing good things for the animals. They honestly think that they're saving them from being euthanized. They're giving them a good home. They're giving them all the care they need. But they don't really see that through an outside perspective of what's happening. Sometimes there's a real edge where people start into it by thinking they're saving people, and they start a little bit of like what they believe is a rescue, because there's no absolute definition of a rescue. So they start rescuing a dog or a cat here and there, and then all of a sudden they've got 10, they've got 20, they're not altering them, and all of a sudden they're breeding, and then people get overwhelmed and they don't know what else to do. I think the real solution to this is the same solution we see with a lot of issues in our society, which is that we haven't really dealt with mental health on a comprehensive basis in our country. And I think that gets down to wanting to be able to have a robust public health system, a private health care that doesn't distinguish between taking care of your mind or your body, and a lot of other things so that people can have that access. So that's a real tough one. When you see the condition of some of these animals and the horror that they've gone through, you want to think, oh my God, these people have to go away to prison. But in many ways, just like there are many cases in which that going through the justice system isn't necessarily the best way to deal with somebody with mental health issues. You've got to find other form of treatment to make that happen. So I think this is another one of those cases to make it work. And I want to give a shout out to our Justice Kendrick Wilson. I don't know, many of you may know him, but Kendrick is a great guy. He has an animal court in the Justice Court here, and does a lot of work on these types of issues. And he has been very progressive. He's doing a lot of things in terms of solving the problem as opposed to just warehousing people in prison. And you might even say, yeah, if you haven't had Kendrick Wilson on here, he could talk about this. I think he'd be a great person to talk at DGT because he's very articulate and he could talk about a whole lot of things from the Justice Court perspective.
All right. Craig, please unmute yourself.
Okay.
Got a live question for you.
All right.
Steve?
Yes.
I am a bird watcher, and cats are a very good predator.
Yes.
I want to know how you square catch, neuter, and release of cats and bird watching.
Well, because I don't think anybody wants to kill the cats to save them from the birds any more than we want to kill the red-tailed hawks to save the other birds that they're going after. The key thing about having the trap, neuter, release is that it will solve the problem, and it'll solve the problem within 5 years. You just have to take the time. If all those cats are neutered or spayed, then they're not going to reproduce. And ultimately, that will help solve. I mean, in the next 5 years, you're going to see a declining population eventually until there is not a population of feral cats out there. So that's the more humane way of us getting there. The issue, and it is possible to be done. We're actually modeling what we're doing on what happened in Massachusetts, where a bunch of cat rescues and shelters got together and they did just this. And it took them 5 years, but now there's such a kitten shortage in Massachusetts that they're importing them from Connecticut and New York. So that's the idea is that this will be better for our wildlife. We just have to have the patience and the tenacity to really be able to hold it together over that period of time. What it's going to take is about 18,000 additional spays and neuters in Pima County alone per year. And that's the key thing where the resources come together, is trying to find the resources to get that done. Because each spay and neuter is going to cost somewhere between $30 and $50 each. And then you need enough people who are veterinarian skilled to do that. But we believe that part of our program is getting private vets to be able to do this, maybe 1 day a month, 1 day a week, to take in some of the cats and do spay and neuter on certain hours to make it work. So yes, the birds will be benefiting long-term from this. We just need to stick with it in the meantime. So this is a way of getting at it without having to go out and kill feral cats.
Thank you.
Follow-up question on the same line from Christina and Steve Early. They're wondering, do you have any plans to show the public how destructive letting cats roam the neighborhoods is for the bird population and her flower beds?
Well, absolutely. That's part of this whole process and why we have two people on board. One person, our cat coordinator, she's been trapping cats forever. She's actually run a clinic in Belize. She was doing our TNR program part-time before we were able to get the money to bring her on full-time. And the other person is the community cat specialist, is someone with a lot of experience in communications, public speaking. She's going to go out meeting with people. She'll go to neighborhood associations. She'll go to any groups that'll have her and talk about what we can do to do this and why it's a problem to not spay and neuter them, and I think most people know that. But why it's a problem as opposed to spay and neuter and return, why that's a better thing than to kill. So that's the key thing. How we can work together, talking with property owners. There are certain colonies we'll be able to track and know what we can do. And there are ways that we can also stop the cats from going up trees with certain, you can have skirts around trees that stop them from going up and going after the birds as well. So that's all part of it, is answering people's concerns about them and then being able to solve it. This whole thing will be solved in 5 years if we're able to go on straight ahead and put the resources into it. And then we'll be in a much better place for everybody's garden as well as their birds.
Thank you.
All right. Christina, you had a question.
Sure. A little follow-up what you were saying about your community outreach. So the apartment complex I live in, would your community outreach person be willing to go through our management company, maybe get a flyer out to the neighbors, something like that? Is that what you're talking about?
That's absolutely one of the things that they're charged to do. We're going to be talking to property managers of all kinds, people who are in mobile home park. We'll talk with the managers there, apartments, anywhere, and they'll sit down and meet with them, talk about the plan, and make sure everybody's on board with it to make that work. So you can always email. If you're interested in the community cat stuff, Clara Lee Arnold is our cat coordinator, and you can email her at carnold@hssaz.org. And she'll take those in. She'll get right back to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Steve. It's
Absolutely.
good seeing you.
Thank you. It's great to see everybody. That's what's so exciting about these. Just so many friends in one Zoom call. It's wonderful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's see. Amy Graves has a question, and she says, Steve, thanks for presenting to us today. You mentioned that you're partnering with schools. What other organizations do you collaborate with? We'll
partner with everybody. I'm radically collaborative. So we're working with schools. We're actually working with some of the juvenile detention facilities that are in the area also to work with those kids, because those are the kids who have already are at risk of becoming more violent later down the line. So we want to make sure that we're working with them with animals first as well. We actually have a program called New Beginnings, where we work with DOC inmates, and we haven't been able to do that since COVID because there's such an issue in the prisons right now. But we bring in prisoners who are working with our dogs who have serious behavioral problems. And then they have a program they go through for 6 weeks where they're working on intensive training every day with those dogs, and they learn the skills for how to make them adoptable. So they're training them, they're giving them the skills they need to be able to have a forever home. And along the process, it's not just the dogs that benefit, it's those guys that come in here and benefit too. They learn those skills, they get more self-confidence, and they feel like that when they're out on the outside, they'll be able to benefit as well. So that's a phenomenal way where you've got a win-win scenario. And actually, we've hired a number of those prisoners after they've gotten out, and they've been some of our best employees. It's amazing when you see these guys in their orange jumpsuits, and I got to saw them a few times before we had to lock down in COVID. But they're in a kennel and they're just cuddling these dogs and cats like nobody's business. And it's just the sweetest thing ever to see lives change that way. And that's incredible. We just got a program with Piedmont Council on Aging and Tucson Medical Center, where we are now offering boarding for seniors who may have to go in for a medical treatment for extended period of time. Where we'll board their animals, and TMC will direct them to us, and we'll make sure that they're taken care of and well taken care of while they're away, so they don't have to worry about that. And we also have a program where people can sign up to make sure that if they don't have any of their family or friends who want to take care of their pet, that if something happens to them that's a permanent health issue, or if they pass away, that we'll be able to be there to take care of their pet and make sure that they go to a good home in the future. So we're doing a lot of collaborations in a lot of different areas with different folks. Basically the sky's the limit. Somebody comes in here and has an idea. There was a person recently who said an idea where they want to work with the VA hospital with people who are suffering from PTSD to do the similar sort of things that we're doing with New Beginnings, and we're starting up on that program as well.
Thank you. Yes, you are radically collaborative.
Yeah, that's for sure. You've seen that before.
Yes.
All right, we have a question from Lucy Messing. Lucy, go ahead.
Thanks. Hi, Steve.
Hi.
I have a question. If you could put the information where to send donations in the chat. I have started a Christmas thing now where my adult children, I give donation in their name to a selected group that Christmas. And I'm going to pick your group. And of course. And then I have another question about that graph that you did with the legislature, the Senate and the House, and that I always use that.
Yes.
When I do trainings for lobbying the legislature. If you could email that to me so that I could use that, please.
I will do that. Yes.
Okay.
I'll get that right back to you.
Thank you.
All right, we've got a question from Carolyn Klassen, who wants to know if there's any information about pets getting COVID-19.
Yeah, there was a lot of worry early on because there were a couple pets in Hong Kong that it was some indication that somebody determined pets on them. But in follow-up studies, they determined that in the case of dogs, and usually in the case of cats, that it was from a COVID infected household and then went to the dogs and did not affect them at all. And they didn't pass it on either. So dogs were 100% secure. With cats, they're like 99.9999% secure as far as we can tell. They will pass it to each other, but there is no known instance of COVID passing from them to a human. So humans go to pets. In the case of dogs, it's a dead end and it doesn't affect them. In the case of cats, it affects them very lightly and they can pass it to each other, but not back to their humans.
Quick follow-up question. What was the name of the program where you take in the pets of people who are in the hospital or passed on?
That's the Guardian Angel program.
Guardian Angel, okay.
Yes. And you can find that on our website also. If you go to hssaz.org, there's all sorts of programs that you can list there, and it's a very it's a long and complex, but hopefully easy to navigate website.
All right, we've got another question from Craig. Craig, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, we live near Silver Bell, and I often wonder how you differ from the Pima County Animal Control.
Well, it's a good question. There's a long history there. Pima County Animal Care and Control is the county shelter, and for many years it was a place where animals went to die, and it was tough. But what happened was at one point, because there were so many animals coming in, they built a giant tent to be able to house them. And then there was an effort to try to build a permanent location that would be expanded and have enough capacity for it, in an effort to be able to have so much capacity that you would no longer have to put animals to sleep because there was not space or money to take care of them. So then the bond issue came into place, and I think that was about, what's that, 2015 or 2014? I forget when that was. And they built the new facility, the beautiful new facilities out on Silver Bell. So they're the county shelter. PAC runs animal control officers. So they're the ones who will go out and check on abuse or go out for calls if there's an animal who's been hit and killed or something, or if there's calls of animals off leash. They will do that type of enforcement and out in the community. And then they have to bring in, they have to accept any strays or surrendered animals from the public. Now, and during COVID, it's got a little complicated because during COVID, they were refusing to take healthy strays. And in fact, I think they might still refuse to take healthy strays, according to some of them. That shouldn't be the case. But we were seeing increasing people coming to our doors saying that they were turned away. So the way it ought to be is that they take every animal they can. And then we also are taking animals, but we're a private entity rather than the public, so we're not required to take all the animals coming in. We've been doing that in effect because we want to be able to help everybody that comes to our door. The way that the future could go, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Their director just left. We're actually talking about how we can work more closely together. One of the things I discovered when I came in was that there was sort of a competition in fundraising between Friends of PAC and the Humane Society. But because we're all working in the same direction, I didn't think that was a good idea. We ought to be having more collaboration in terms of how we work together. Because the pet doesn't know whether they're being taken to the county shelter or to the private shelter. They're not sure what that is. We should be serving regardless of what's happening. So I'm hoping that we can get to the point where we're working more closely together that way in the future. And I think we will, because ultimately we've got to make that happen. We've been taking in pets because that's where pets go into from the public at more of a quantity. We help them out by transferring pets from them to us as well when we have the room and the ability to do it. So we've been collaborating for a while. Just like we took my pup from the Wilcox shelter, we'll take animals from the Pima Camp from PAC as well. So hopefully we'll continue to have better relationships as we move forward in the future, and it won't really make much difference which one you're going to. We'll be serving regardless.
All right, we have a question from Susie Anderson. Susie, please unmute yourself.
Hi there, Steve. It's really good to see you. Good to see everybody else who's here. My question is about the ASPCA. They were holding a fundraiser. They had people out at the Mercado San Agustin. ASPCA does not have any site here in Southern Arizona. Am I correct in that? And, when they come around looking for donations, does it thin out what we can do here in Southern Arizona?
Well, that's a really good question, because there are national organizations on animal welfare, and then there are the local shelters, and they are not connected. It's especially confusing because we are the Humane Society of Southern Arizona, and we're not connected in any way with the Humane Society of the United States. The Humane Society of the United States is a separate entity that deals with policy issues. And I was proud when I was in the legislature. I got selected as Humane Legislator of the Year several times by the Humane Society of the U.S. because that's their focus is on those issues. So we'll work with them on policy issues, but they're not related to us in any financial way or any other way. But it can get confusing. Like, we got a call from people and saying, hey, your guys are out there soliciting money on University and Euclid, and they're not wearing masks. And I got that call like a month ago, and I was like, what? We don't do that. And we went down there ourselves and discovered there were a couple of college kids hired by the Humane Society of the U.S. to just ask people for donations there. Now, I'd like people who donate to donate directly to the pets of Pima County by donating to us instead of to the HSUS. So I'd rather they find their money somewhere else. But that maybe that's just me. But the ASPCA also, when I lived in San Francisco in the 80s, I volunteered for the San Francisco SPCA. And again, that was a shelter, but they were unrelated to the national ASPCA. The national ASPCA is like the National Humane Society of the U.S. They are working on policy issues nationally. So if you're working on policy issues, those are the people you can donate to. But that isn't to say we're not working on policy issues either at Humane Society of Southern Arizona. I have a monthly call with the Arizona Humane Society out of Phoenix, and we're collaborating and we lobby together in the legislature when it comes to animal issues. We did have a lobbyist that we worked with, and now that I'm on board in this position, I get to be the lobbyist for the Humane Society and the Arizona Humane Society. We'll save a little bit of money that we can use under services instead. But generally speaking, if you want to help the people of Southern Arizona and the pets of Southern Arizona, give to the Humane Society of Southern Arizona, not the Humane Society of the U.S. But if you want to do national policy stuff, then you can give the HSUS.
Quick
Thank
question.
you.
Steve, I'm on your website right now, and I see that the Humane Society has a comfort dog program. And it's for people who've been in a traumatic incident, victims of crime and assault, and grief from the loss of loved ones. Tell me about that program.
Yes, that's a good. It's called Pet VIP, and that one we actually work with volunteers in the area. We will train your pet if you think your pet could be a good comfort dog, and we'll train your pet and get certified as a Pet VIP pet. And then we will go out to hospitals, to nursing homes. We just created signed a contract with Tucson Airport. So when people start flying again, we'll be able to come in for people who are flying to be able to help with anxious travelers. So you can sign up for that one too if you're interested. And if you're interested in actually having somebody visit your facility, or then you can contact them through the website there too. It's called Pet VIP.
Okay. And then really I think the question that we all have is, how can we support you? You know, what do you need? Do you need volunteers? Do you need donations of, food and paper towels and things? Do you need donations of cash? How can we help you?
Everything is welcome. That's and luckily people have been giving in so many different ways. If you're wanting to volunteer, we're starting to do a little more online training now. And there are things you can do at home. We had just started up a program we call Volunteer Pet Detectives, where we're actually piloting in Arizona. We're the pilot site for a new software called findingrover.com, where we're trying to put people together with their lost dogs. The Volunteer Pet Detective program is one I'm pretty excited about, because it's one of the things that's hardest to do is to connect somebody with a lost dog with their pet, and it's a very small percentage that actually get reunited. Sadly, we're trying to increase that percentage by taking advantage of technology, so that because people are increasingly, when they have a lost pet, posting to social media, to Nextdoor, to Craigslist, to Facebook, to Twitter, we're going to have our volunteers regularly look for the sites where people post lost pets, and then look for the pets that have been found at both PAC and the Humane Society and any other shelters and rescues, and then put the matches together and call those people before they even know that anyone's found their pets, and reunite them. So that's a neat thing that we can do, and you don't have to go anywhere. You can be safe at home while helping to bring pets back together with their owners. So sign up if you go to the website and go to hssaz.org/volunteer. Then you can find out about that as well. And of course, donations of cash are huge. When you've got an organizations with 100 employees, where you've got 5,000 pets a year that you're coming right through your shelter, and you're also doing a low-income wellness clinic. Oh, and we have low-cost dental services now too. We're offering for pets. And if you've ever had a vet tell you how much it would cost to get your pet's teeth cleaned, there's a desperate need for that out there. In fact, we are booked through February now, and we're looking to get another dental vet to come in. All this stuff you can check out on the website, but all these things cost money to be able to support for the organization and for the community. So if you're willing to give there, you can also give through the website. Next time you'd love to have a pet, or if you know somebody who wants to, don't go to a puppy mill, go to the Humane Society. We got a lot of amazing animals there that really need your love. And it's probably the most important thing you can do. So many different ways. Go to the website, check it out, be a part of our organization, whatever way you feel comfortable.
Okay. One last question from Lee Oler. Can the Humane Society do home visits before an animal is adopted to be sure that the animal is going to a suitable home and not into a dogfighting ring?
Well, we can pretty much tell if they're going to or not going to, and based on the way that we have a questionnaire people go through. It's kind of a fine line in terms of home visits between making sure the animal is going to a good home and also making sure that you are not using preconceived notions of what a good home looks like. There are a lot of, when you're adopting to somebody who may be in poverty, then you don't necessarily want to ask questions that would turn people away because they have an apartment that doesn't have a yard. there are ways that people can adopt and take care of an animal properly. So we have to be careful about doing that. We're not going to check out in a home visit, but we do have adoption counselors who kind of get a sense of who somebody is and what they're doing and how they react to the dogs, that we know that they're not going to take them into a dog fighting ring. Ultimately, that's probably not going to happen too much anyway, because all of our dogs are altered before they're adopted out. And what a dog fighting ring really wants is a dog that is unneutered, so that they can breed them if they ended up being a good fighting dog. So the last thing you want to do is have that happen. It's something where we haven't had that problem in the past because our volunteers are trained enough well to be able to find the good homes for the animals.
Tell us what we need to know, and what should we take away from today's meeting with you?
Well, there's a lot of needs for a lot of people and a lot of pets right now all over the place. And I know that you're all doing what you can to help the people in need. And just consider some pets in mind too. Like I said, they don't know what's going on. They just know they've got needs to be taken care of. And we're the organization's been around for 76 years to do just that. I'm excited about what we can do, and what we can do to help pets and people together. Especially these times, I think everybody needs to have somebody they can depend on. And there's nothing better than having your own pet. So I thank you for all you do to care about other people. We're doing everything we care about people and pets. And if you could help us out with that in any way you can, I'd be grateful. The Humane Society website again is hssaz.org. And I'm really excited to be able to be talking with you about it today and moving forward in our community. I'm especially excited to be doing it under a Biden presidency.
You bet. Well, see, we did get a political comment out of you.
Well, you will get that. You may be able to give me another job, but you're not going to take the politics out of me all the time.
All right.
It's good stuff. Although I tell you, it's really great to be able to work with people of all parties in the same direction. That's always what I try to do in the legislature anyway. It's just have a common goal and go for it. And I think that's if we can do that for the country the way we're doing it for pets here now, then we're in good shape.
Yep. Well, I just got a chat message from Andrea Kennedy, who says, "You are the perfect person for this job. I couldn't agree more." Speaking on behalf of Democrats of Greater Tucson, we all support you. We will be making donations privately. We wish you all the best going forward.
Well, thank you all. It's really been a pleasure to see you all again. And I really appreciate all you're doing for everything in Arizona.
All right. Well, good to see you, Steve. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.